صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى. سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى. ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى. سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا. قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى. بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى. إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. آمنت بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. الفاتحة.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Tonight we are honored to have our guest speaker, Brother Dawood Walid. A brief history: Brother Dawood Walid is currently the Executive Director of the Michigan chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, which is a chapter of America's largest advocacy and civil liberties organization for American Muslims, and is a member of the Michigan Muslim Community Council (MMCC) Imams Committee. Brother Walid has lectured numerously about Islam, interfaith dialogue, and social justice, and was the featured speaker at the 2009 and 2010 Million Peace and Tolerance Conferences at the University of Bamako in Mali, West Africa. Brother Walid has studied Arabic grammar and morphology, foundations of Islamic jurisprudence, sciences of the exegesis of the Quran, and Islamic history during the era of Prophet Muhammad through the governments of the 5 caliphs under qualified scholars. He previously served as an imam at Masjid Wali Muhammad in Detroit and at the Bosnian American Islamic Center in Hamtramck, Michigan, and was a 2000 to 2012 fellow of the University of Southern California American Muslim Civil Leadership Institute, and 2014 to 2015 fellow of the Wayne State Law School Detroit Action Equity Lab. Please help me welcome Brother Dawood Walid ba'da salawat.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه، وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله الذين أذب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. ورضي الله عن أصحابه الراشدين المنتجبين والتابعين لهم بخير وإحسان إلى يوم الدين. ثم أما بعد، ويقول الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم بعد أن أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني يحببكم الله ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم والله غفور رحيم. قل أطيعوا الله ورسوله فإن تولوا فإن الله لا يحب الكافرين. إن الله اصطفى آدم ونوحا وآل إبراهيم وآل عمران على العالمين ذرية بعضها من بعض Wallahu Samiun Alim. Sadaqallahu al-Aliyyul Azim. To our Sheikh Ibrahim, brothers and sisters in Islam here and also watching live streaming, Assalamu alaikum. Before I begin the topic that I want to discuss today in light of current events, I recited in the Quran that Allah Azza wa Jal commanded our beloved Prophet, say to the people, if you love God, then follow me, then God will love you and forgive you of your sins. Surely Allah, God, is the most forgiving, the most merciful. Say to the people, O Prophet, obey Allah and the Messenger. And if you turn away, then surely know that Allah does not love the rejectors of faith. Surely Allah chose Adam, Noah, the family of Imran, and the family of Abraham, over all of the worlds, over all the jinn and the men, descendants one portion of another, and surely Allah is the all-hearing and all-knowing. I recited these 4 ayat in commemoration and congratulating us as a ummah on the birthday of Imam Hassan ibn Ali salawatullahi alayhi, who was born in the 15th of Shahr Ramadan. In the many sayings that are related to him, I want to mention one, and actually this is a hadith that is well known, in which Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi alayhi does a type of question and answer with his son. Basically, and this is a pedagogy or a way of testing students' knowledge, is that you've trained them, you give them tarbiyah, and then you ask them questions to see what type of answers. This is a way of education as well as reinforcement. So Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam said to his son Al-Hasan alayhi salam, Masadad, or Ma'as-Sadad. What is appropriateness? What is what we could say straightness? فقال الإمام حسن عليه السلام دفع المنكر بالمعروف. It is to repel or is to push away what is evil, what is bad, with what is good, or with what is just. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, in regards to the tragedy that took place in Orlando, and there was an interfaith gathering here earlier today regarding both the mass shooting that took place in Orlando, as well as commemorating the 1-year anniversary of when that terrorist Dylan Roof went into a black church in South Carolina and shot numerous people, killing 9, including the pastor of a church and a state representative, someone in the state Congress. No small thing that took place. These national tragedies. And from this tragedy, and from these things that have taken place, and specifically the last one in Orlando, Florida, there's been a conversation that has been brewing on social media, in mainstream media, and in the Muslim community in regards to the position of Islam in the LGBTQ community, meaning lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual. I believe that's what those, maybe I mixed up the meaning, but this is, in a nutshell, what this means. This issue, in too many of our communities, has not been dealt with in a comprehensive way. On the one end, people say, haram, haram, haram. This is the answer. This is what's been told to us, that being involved in homosexual activity is haram. And then, on the other end, that there has been an extreme on another part that's been growing in the community, that the embrace of secular liberalism and Western pluralism, that we should stand for the rights of everyone, even if those go against our sacred tradition. So there is, inshallah, I'd like to elaborate on this. Allah Azza wa Jal said in the Quran, وَلُوتٌ إِذْ قَالَ لِقَوْمِهِ أَتَأْمُرُونَ الْفَاحِشَةَ مَا سَبَقَكُم بِهَا مِنْ أَحَدٍ مِنَ الْعَالَمِينَ. And Lut, or Lot, remember when he said to his people that you are committing al-fahisha, a grave moral crime that none before you has committed from al-alamin. Al-alamin, men and jinn, and from creatures that have never committed before. And then he says, and the Quran says, إِنَّكُمْ لَا تَأْتُونَ الرِّجَالَ شَهْوَةً مِنْ دُونِ النِّسَاءِ بَلْ أَنْتُمْ قَوْمٌ مُسْرِفُونَ. That is because you, speaking to the Qawm Lut, you are men, or you are taking your shahwa, your passions, your desires towards men that you're supposed to have for women. And it says, of course not, you are a transgressing people, Allah Azza wa Jal has said in the Quran. So before elaborating more into these nuances of engagement with the LGBTQ community, know that in usul fiqh, brothers and sisters in Islam, or what's called the foundations of Islamic jurisprudence, there is something called tawatur. Tawatur. Tawatur means that when something is narrated and is so widely narrated and spread as being authentic, it then becomes binding upon Muslims relating to belief as well as action. It's called tawatur. Tawatur. Or we have something in the ulum al-hadith, we have something called hadith mutawatir. That means a hadith that is so widely spread that it is beyond belief. For instance, one such hadith that is beyond doubt, that is widely spread, قال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله من كنت مولاه فعلي مولاه. This is hadith mutawatir. It is widely narrated in the kutub of Ahlul Shia and Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Whoever I am their master, their mawla, they know that Ali is their master. This is hadith is beyond doubt. Including the Salafis have graded this hadith sahih mutawatir, al-Bani. So this is beyond doubt. The Quran itself is tawatur. It is so widely narrated from so many people amongst Ahlul Bayt and from the Sahaba who passed it down to their students, the Tabi'een, Tabi'een, that it is beyond doubt. So we believe that the Quran, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This book has no doubt. The Quran has no doubt. And there are certain ahadith, mutawatira, that are so widely narrated and confirm also or give instruction or say more explanation to the Quran, that they are absolutely beyond doubt and they are a matter of belief of aqidah. So for instance, when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi says that the la'na or the removal of mercy is upon the people who do the actions of the people of Lot, this is beyond doubt. That is made forbidden is beyond doubt. One of the mufassirin relating to these ayat that I read, the ayatain that I read, his name is Al-Aqam Al-Anasi. He is a alim min al-Zaydiyya, madhab Zaydi, madhab mashhur fil Yemen, in northern part of Yemen. Harakat al-Huthiyin min al-Zaydiyya. He said in regards to this act that Allah Azza wa Jal made impermissible, tafsir that's narrated in different riwayat by Al-Thalabi, Alama, Tabatabai, and others narrate this same issue. It said that Iblis came to the Qawm of Lut in the shape of a young, handsome man. And then he called them towards the thoughts of men being with other men, and then he literally uses the word of Iblis that he said to them, that he called them to, فَنَكَحَ. Like, nakaha is related to the word nikah, which means marriage. So literally, Iblis was calling men to fulfill their shahwa with other men, but if you were to look at this literally, that he was calling men to actually consummate, almost like being married to other men. So know, brothers and sisters in Islam, that beyond a shadow of a doubt, according to our aqidah, that al-liwat, sexual relationships man between man, and sexual relationships women between women are forbidden in Islam, and they are min al-kaba'ir. They are of the major sins. We have kaba'ir and sagha'ir. We have a kabira and a saghira. We have major sins and we have minor sins in Islam. El-liwat is a major sin in Islam. Sodomy men with men is a major sin in Islam, and we should not apologize about what our book says, because as I recited in the beginning part, Allah Azza wa Jal said, Kul ati'u Allah wa Rasul. Obey Allah and His Messenger. Whatever Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi tell us to do, we should do out of obedience, because Allah Azza wa Jal is our creator and He knows best the way we should live our lives, because He's Al-Khaliq. He created us. He has more right to tell the makhluk how to live their lives, because He's Al-Khaliq Azza wa Jal. And whatever He told us to stay away from, we should stay away from it out of obedience to Him Azza wa Jal. Now, in regards to the feeling or the shahwa of being attracted to the opposite sex, having an attraction or having shahwa towards anything, for a man towards a woman, a man towards a man, a man towards, or a woman or a human being towards al-dhahab, to gold, or al-fidda, silver, or al-halath, land, or al-an'am, cattle, property. To have passion or have shahwa for this isn't bad in and of itself, unless we act upon this passion or this desire in an unlawful way. There are certain passions and certain desires that we can act upon lawfully. For instance, if a man has shahwa for a woman, or if a woman has shahwa for a man, that can be acted upon lawfully within the institution of marriage. And of course, I say women having shahwa for men as well, because this is a reality that's mentioned in Surah Yusuf. Women can have shahwa for men, just as men have shahwa for women, as we know what happened with the Zawja Aziz in Surah Yusuf, that tried to grab at Yusuf and tear his qamis from behind, not from the front. And then when the women saw how so handsome and so beautiful Yusuf alayhi salam was, when they saw him, they cut themselves. Like he was that handsome, he was that fine, right? So women can have shahwa too. For men, it's acted upon lawfully through az-zawaj, marriage between a woman and a man with a woman, as we have been told in the Quran. And also by nature. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, فَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ حَنِيفًا فِطْرَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا وَلَا تَبْدِيلَ لِخَلْقِ اللَّهِ ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Turn your face, establish your face to the upright deen. The nature of Allah that He originated human beings upon, He originated everything upon. A same order. And you will find no change or no substitution. La tabdil. No substitution in the creation of Allah. That is the upright way. Ad-Din al-Qayyim, the upright religion. But most human beings, most people, la ya'lamun. Most people don't know. Walakinna akthara nasi la ya'lamun. Most people don't know. This is why our morals and our values cannot be subjected to public opinion polls. What's halal haram is not subjected to democracy. We won't put our finger up in the air and say because the majority of people change their mind about something that then therefore our morals change. Because most people don't really know. Most people don't understand. So we don't test or change our morals or our ethics based upon public opinion polls, based upon what's fashionable. So this is the upright deen, dear brothers and sisters in Islam, the nature that Allah Azza wa Jal created human beings to be upon. And as we are told, every human being is born innocent, sinless with a clean slate, and born upon the nature that is naturally inclined towards obedience to God. And our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi said this: Kullu mawludun yuladun ala al-fitra, yani fitratul islamiyya. Every single child is born upon al-fitra, meaning al-Islam, a Muslim. But it is their parents or the environment that make them Jewish, Christian, Majusi, or otherwise. It's the environment. Now these desires that we have, that we're supposed to act lawfully with, and Allah Azza wa Jal test us in different ways. And I make one other point before I get to the engagement part. It is true that in the creation there can be very rare exceptions to the rule. It's called an anomaly. Right? Like for instance, most sheep have white wool. The most expensive sheep that are very rare actually have black wool, black sheep. That's rare. There are even anomalies that are even more rare. You can have sometimes animals that are born with one less limb, a mammal that's born with one less limb than they normally have. We have human beings also that can be born with particular anomalies. Maybe sometimes it is something that was passed down from a father or mother to a child. A type of chemical imbalance, something like Down syndrome, something of that type of nature. Sometimes human beings are born and they're not mentally sound. They're not aqil or aqila. Their aql is not sound. There's something wrong. And with the person who does not have sound intellect, or what we would say is majnoon, the qalam or the pen is lifted up from their bad deeds, and they're not held responsible for their bad deeds. Someone who's majnoon. For instance, a prerequisite for fasting the month of Ramadan or Saum is that someone has to be mentally sound in order to fast. This is a prerequisite. And sometimes people have hormonal imbalances. However, if someone is sane enough to go to school and get a diploma, if they're sane enough to pay their bills, if they're sane enough to obey the laws of the land, then they have enough wherewithal in their aql to control their shahwa. And Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam talks about this in a narration. He said that al-malaika, the angels are created bi-uqul, with intellect. or aql, bila shahwa. But they don't have these animalistic desires. Animals were created with shahwa, bila uqul, bila aql. Different narration. But they don't have intellect. The insan was created with aql and shahwa. And Imam Mu'mineen alayhi salam says, he said, and the one who uses his intellect to control his shahwa, he is at a level higher than the angels. But the one who goes off of his shahwa and ignores his intellect, he sinks down lower than the animals. ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ. In Surah Tin, he sinks down to the lowest of the low. So if we've been given aql and we've been given intellect, no matter what we've been tested by, be it accumulation of wealth, fame, hubb shahwa min nisa, as the Quran talks about, or having even something where we may feel a little tendency towards finding the same gender attractive, if we have intellect or aql, that is supposed to be used to control this desire, and this is part of jihad nafs. Actually, what's very interesting is that aql in the Arabic language, for those of you who don't know Arabic morphology very well, though most of you are Arab, aql is related to the word which means to tie up or restrain. So for instance, we have a famous hadith. A Badawi man came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, and he had his she-camel. He said, "O Messenger of Allah, should I tie her up or should I trust God?" I mean, should I tie up my she-camel or should I just trust that God will protect my she-camel? I don't have to tie my she-camel up. فقال حبيب الله صلى الله عليه وآله اقلها وتوكل. Tie her up and trust in God. Tie her up and trust in God. Use the intellect that God gave you to restrain that camel, Bedouin man, and trust in God. Do your good effort and leave the results to Almighty God, because we can't control the results. We could tie up a camel or a horse, it might break free and run off, but we do our due diligence. This is the function of aql. Now, in engagement with the LGBTQ community, and some of you are in college, high school, you deal with gay student groups. In the past week, I've learned about two Muslim sisters in the community, one at a university not close by, who came out of the closet, said they're lesbian. Right? This is a reality. This happens, this is something that's in our community. Right? Now, how do we deal with this issue, both in our community and outside? What I was taught by my teachers is that we should hate the sin, not the sinner. We should hate the sin, not the sinner. Something very interesting in the Quran. God talks about in the Quran whom He loves, and He talks about whom He doesn't love, but you will not find a place in the Quran where God says He hates people. Inna Allaha yuhibbul muhsinin. And surely Allah loves the doers of good. Inna Allaha yuhibbul muttaqin. Surely Allah loves the people of taqwa. Inna Allaha la yuhibbul zalimin. Inna Allaha la yuhibbul mufsidin. Inna Allaha la yuhibbul fasikin. Inna Allaha la yuhibbul kafirin. We hate the sin, not necessarily the sinner, because if we go around hating sinners, ana muznib, ana muznib, I'm a sinner. You're a sinner. None of us in here are ma'soom or ma'sooma. So we should have a little bit of empathy for our brothers and sisters who are dealing with challenges, and if someone comes and confides with us, we should give them a nasiha birifq. We should give them advice, but with compassion and with tenderness. Many people who are dealing with this lifestyle, a large percentage of them never got proper mental health treatment or therapy because many people who are involved in this lifestyle themselves were molested as children. It wasn't their fault that they were molested. They're dealing with a psychological issue, and they are, if not self-medicating, they are involved in a type of behavior that is dealing or trying to cover up with that pain or something, a feeling that's been stimulated inside of their bodies physiologically that they didn't ask for. So we have to help people and walk people through this. And everyone's not the right person to do it. Even every sheikh is not the right person to walk a person through it. So we have to be compassionate. At the same time, not encourage the behavior. At the same time, not encourage the behavior. Any more than if someone who's an alcoholic, you know, alcoholism is a disease. Once someone begins to drink alcohol or use opiates, they literally become physically addicted and can have withdrawal symptoms where their body craves it. They actually need the alcohol. It's more than just something psychological. It becomes a physiological issue. There was a famous rock star, Jerry Garcia. He was hooked on heroin from the Grateful Dead. Some of you probably don't know about Jerry Garcia and the Grateful Dead. Jerry Garcia used heroin for so many years, and he tried kicking the habit and relapse. When he finally went to treatment, long-term treatment to detox, he said, enough is enough. I've been using heroin for like decades. He finally got sick and tired of being sick and tired. His body adapted to heroin so much that he died from the withdrawal symptoms because his body had heroin for so many decades, his body physically could not live without it, and he died. He went into cardiac arrest. He died. But just because someone's an alcoholic or on drugs doesn't mean that we're going to encourage them in their alcoholism or their addiction. Shouldn't do that. So we have to be very careful. Also, guard yourself, or we should guard ourselves from el-kibr, self-righteousness, or arrogance. This is an attribute of Iblis. One of my teachers, he said, as much as possible, try to stay away from first personal pronouns. Know what that means? Like I, me, my. Avoid it as much as possible. Talking about yourself and dwelling on yourself, talking to people or looking at people like I, because he said that this is sifa iblis, la'natullahi alayh. This is an attribute of Iblis. Qala ana khayrun minhu, khalaqtani min nar wa khalaqtahu min teen. Iblis said about Adam, I'm better than him because you made me of fire, you made him of that black mud, that dirt. It's an attribute of Iblis, la'natullahi alayh. So we have to be careful about that. Now the engagement in the broader society, I will close with this. There's a happy medium that I suggest that we be involved in. On the one end, relating to the issue of Orlando or other issues. If we are a part of a coalition, if there's a coalition with a group of people and they're calling towards something that's ma'ruf or something good in the society, even if they're involved in a belief or involved in an action that we find haram or disdainful, it is okay for us to be involved with them in that which is calling towards good only for that particular purpose. For that particular purpose. Our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a witness of an agreement called the Treaty of Virtues when he was a young boy. In the Arabic books or in Sirah, it's called Hilful Fudul. Hilful Fudul. Hilful Fudul started, brothers and sisters in Islam, it came about, there was a Yemeni guy, he came to do trade in Mecca, and he was cheated during a business deal. And he began to cry out in Mecca that he was Mazlum. Now mind you, Mecca was the trading center for the Arab and the Hijaz at that time. This wasn't a center of pilgrimage, even a pilgrimage for the Mushrikeen. It was a center for business, in commerce. So he yelled out. So the people of Quraysh, they came together and they made an agreement that anyone who came through who was a free man, who came through Mecca to do business, be they Hijazi or non-Hijazi, be it from Quraysh or not from Quraysh, that they would not be taken advantage of in business or not be robbed. It's called Hilful Fudul. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi was asked about this Hilful Fudul in Al-Medina by his companions. And he said, I swear by Allah that if I were called towards this, even in Islam, I would accept. Now these people from Quraysh, these people were mushrikeen. Not all of them, but most of them were mushrikeen. Obviously we don't believe that the Prophet Muhammad's father, sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, we don't believe that he was a mushrik, obviously. Although there are some Muslims who believe that he was a mushrik and Abu Talib died as a mushrik and all these other things. This isn't our understanding, but there are some Muslims who believe this. Nonetheless, he said that if there are people who committed the Zulmun Azim that the Quran says of shirk, this is the greatest crime between a human being and his creator or her creator, he said he would still enter into agreement with them for the betterment of society, for justice in society. And the Quran says, as a general rule, relating to believers, but it's something general for all of us as human beings. تعاونوا على البر والتقوى ولا تعاونوا على الإثم والعدوان. Cooperate with each other based upon piety and righteousness, but do not cooperate with each other based upon sinful matters and enmity. This is what the Quran says. So we should cooperate with each other based upon what is good, what is right, what's going to make society better, but don't cooperate with people based upon sinful matters or enmity. So for this matter, it's fine if you're in a coalition regarding against mass incarceration, against Islamophobia, illegal occupation of Philistine, regarding environmental justice, making things green. If people are in the coalition and they're part of the LGBTQ community, alhamdulillah, we can be in coalition with them and other people regarding that. But the problem or the issue comes in, and we have to also be very careful about language because words matter. Different people attach different definitions to things. When people say after Orlando, we stand in solidarity with the LGBTQ community, what does that mean? What does that mean? It might mean one thing for one group of people and mean something else to you. Right? Or if you say, I'm against homophobia, or someone wants you to sign on against homophobia, that might mean one thing to you and mean something to someone else. So obviously we should stand up for the right that no one in our society, in a civil society, no one should be killed based upon a tendency. Like no one can be judge, jury, and executioner. Vigilantism, doing what you want to do to harm people, is completely haram in Islam. لا تقتلوا النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق. Do not kill a soul that God has made sacred except bil haq, meaning in self-defense, or if someone goes to a judge, faces the evidence against them, they have a trial, the judge, jury, and then the judge gives them a capital punishment for a crime according to the law of the land. That's bil haq. Not going around killing people because they're gay or we think they're gay. Because there's effeminate men. There's mukhannath. There's effeminate men. They may not be gay, but they may appear to be feminine with high voices, maybe can't grow facial hair, maybe you might think they have some feminine tendencies, but they're not gay. There were some people like this amongst the Sahaba, by the way. They go mukhannath, if you look in our books, mukhannath. Or there's also word hermaphrodites. Now, so obviously if someone is bullied at school, harassed at work, like the zani shouldn't be just like you don't harass the zani, but then you harass the homosexual, or you allow it, right? Like no one should be harassed at work or at the school place, beaten, intimidated, things of this nature in a civil society. Where the line, however, is drawn is that we say that we stand in solidarity with everyone's values. We don't have to do that. There's nothing about being, besides being a Muslim, there's nothing about being a good American that says that we have to stand with everyone's values or everyone's tendencies that they choose to identify as a lifestyle. We don't have to agree with that. Even in a time of tragedy, when 52 people who are gay are murdered in a horrible mass shooting, we could be against the mass shooting and still not endorse the lifestyle. And the shooter, Umar Siddiqui Mateen, he himself was gay. So I don't even like to call it a hate crime because he committed in English what's called fratricide. Fratricide means when you kill your own brothers, you kill people in your own community. He killed people of a club he regularly went to. This was his regular hangout. If you look at news stories, he's had a gay dating website. He went to this club regularly. The bartender, the owner knew him by first name. Oh, that's Omar, like the old TV show Cheers. The guy Norm, when everybody knows your name, everybody knew his name. Like sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. Everyone in the gay club knew Omar. So he stuck for law. He killed his own people, right? So we can be against the murder and not endorse the lifestyle. And even if something's legal in America, doesn't mean we have to agree with it. Our Sheikh, Jazakallahu Khairan, two Khutbatul Jum'ahs ago, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, he talked about the life of Marhum Muhammad Ali. Marhum Muhammad Ali, the great American Muslim. What made Muhammad Ali great? Or Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. great? Malcolm X great? There were certain books on the laws, and they said, my religion, my values do not agree with these laws. I don't agree with this law, and I'm going to use my voice as an American, my democratic right as American to voice. I don't agree with that law. I don't agree with that. That's not my value. So we can be sympathetic to violence that goes on against the gay community, but we don't have to say, I agree that a person who says they're a transgender girl who still has male body parts can go into a girl's bathroom in a school. I don't have to agree with that as an American. As a Muslim, doesn't make me a bad Muslim, don't make me a bad American. Or I don't want someone who says they're a girl, who says they're a boy, but biologically a girl, in the locker room with my sons and my son at the high school. I don't have to agree with that. I can voice my dissent against it, my First Amendment rights, and I can organize and legally challenge it, just like other laws have been legally challenged in America. Just like segregation was once legal in America, it was legally challenged. Abortion was illegal in America. It was legally challenged. Alcohol was once illegal in America. It's now legal. Funny, cocaine was legal in America when alcohol was illegal. The original Coca-Cola had cocaine. It was cocaine cola. So something can be legal today and illegal tomorrow. But our mahruf should stay mahruf, and our mahruf should not turn into munkar, as how we see it, just because of the public opinion polls. This is my advice, brothers and sisters in Islam, relating to this issue. And with that, I will take any questions, and also the Sheikh, inshallah, if he'd like to join me regarding any Q&A regarding this issue or anything else. إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَمَلَائِكَتُهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا صَلُّوا عَلَيْهِ وَسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا. Thank you. Yes, working. Any questions regarding? Yes, assalamu alaikum.
Ahsantum. First of all, ahsantum. Question, you mentioned the what is the view of Islam on
the mukhannath? Okay, I'll let Sheikh answer this fiqhi question.
Story of my life. Regarding, let's first of all come up with the working definition. Is there a sound?
Yes.
Yeah, with the working definition for a mukhannath. There are different definitions given. There is one definition that says mukhannath is somebody that has both sexual organs. Both. And there are those who say mukhannath that has nothing quite obvious as either one or the other. In the old days when the kings wanted to have somebody in the harem or with the wives, they would search for these unique individuals that had no sexual organs that could be harmful to their women, and they would use them to go the communication agent. So it's not clear one or the other. If it is both, then the scholars have been asked regarding this issue. They say the one that the tendency dominates, then we have to apply that. If a person has both organs and acts like a man more than anything else, then we consider that a person to be a man. If the person has both and acts like a woman, then we have to consider him or her, that person to be a woman. That's the. With regard to a person that has neither clearly defined organs that one could say one or the other, it's a kind of in suspense. It depends on how society identifies this individual. There is a case in London in which somebody changed his sexuality from a man into a woman. And through hormone use, etc., he developed, or at least physically became similar to a woman, and applied to the Islamic school to become a student, but in the women's department. The ladies for girls, and or for ladies, it was Hawza in London. And there was a great debate as exactly, should we accept this individual or shouldn't we? Should we call this person a her or she, and then allow that person to come into the Hawza and study with the other women? Or shouldn't we say, though, because he was this person was born as a male, stays as a male? They send application or istifta to grand scholars, and they all came up with the same thing. what is the dominant criteria that or this person falls under. If this person falls under as a woman, then naturally we have to treat her as a woman, even if in the past this person used to be a male.
Also after the transformation.
Yeah, after she went through this operation and changed herself with the hormone, etc., etc., is it possible for somebody to change the gender? Or are we stuck with the gender, the classification, or that we are born with, and that would signify who we are forever? The fatwa, both from Najaf as well as Qom, was that no, we look around and see how this person is defined under the new condition within the society, the norm, the urf, and then we operate according to that.
Thank you. Thank you, brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
Isn't it haram to change from a man
Another fatawa on it, but I'll let the sheikh.
And technically not, because it's a choice one makes. Depends on if a person feels that they are deep down, have more tendency to become a woman or as a woman, then the technical development these days make it possible for them to do this switch. Then they do it. Otherwise, we don't have anything specific that you cannot change your gender.
So someone like Jennings, that's halal.
Someone,
Like Jennings, the runner, the famous Olympic runner, who changed his whole complete gender.
He didn't change
Nothing
his
to do
gender.
with it. Jennings, is it?
yeah.
No. Jenner did not. He did not transition. So he says he's a woman, but he still has male body parts, and he says that he still likes women, not men. Yeah, he's. Yeah, that's just different. No, he hasn't. He hasn't even transitioned. But let me say this: that though there is the fiqh opinion, and there is ikhtilaf al-fuqaha amongst the madhahib on this issue, but even when people say they are like making the transition from a male to a female, a person, just because they get castrated, they will never go through a period or a menstrual cycle. They will never have ovaries. No, they will never have like fallopian tubes. Like the basic physiology of a woman, they will never experience a menstrual cycle and the pains of that, or to be able to get pregnant. That's just not going to happen. So I mean, I just have to make that clear, because the thought is it is a gender change, but physiologically it is, according to at least the science we have today, a man cannot fully transition and technically be fully a woman in physiology. It's just not there.
In the case of the question that you had earlier, where the person has both organs, this transformation is very easy, and you can because the person possesses both, you can terminate one and stay the other one. And by the way, with regard even to a number of organs that Brother Dawood talked about, these days are trying, like kidney transplant or some other transplant, trying to add certain things, but it's not going to be the original.
So basically, they can't get married. They can't fully.
Well, if they have as long as they declare themselves that this is my gender now, and this is what I used to be, and the partner is prepared to accept who they are, they certainly cannot have children. They certainly would not become pregnant. As Brother Dawood said, they're not going to go through a period, etc., etc. But whether they can, a person who has changed the gender, let's for argument's sake, possessed both of them, terminated one, and now is fully equipped, still there, fully equipped, then why not? For when you want to create an artificial organ, then that's questionable.
Like you mentioned, if we come across people like homosexual in Muslim community, what kind of resources do we have to help them? You know, like where would we point them in which direction? Because the common folk, we don't have the knowledge to help them out. So.
Okay, well, what I would say is that it depends on what type of help they're looking for, right? But if they want someone to talk to, dealing with an issue, or they have questions about the halal or haram, or they're dealing with certain things, you can refer them to Sheikh Ibrahim. Or there's another resource, Muslim Family Services, that's located in Detroit, and they actually have trained counselors who licensed counselors who can talk with someone. There's also a good friend of mine. He's a PhD in psychology, and he also has Islamic spirituality background. His name is Dr. Halim Naeem. He's African American Muslim. He has a practice, and he's actually counseled people and dealt with people in the community who are dealing with this issue. And it's in our community. So we can't act like it's not. It's amongst South Asians, it's amongst Arab, it's amongst African American. I had a brother a few years ago came to me. I didn't expose him, but he came to me in private and explained to me that he's living with a man who's his partner, you know, and he says he is struggling with it, but he says he respects the masjid, that he's not going to talk about in the masjid. He's not going to bring that man with him to the masjid, but he comes and prays every Salatul Jum'ah. He comes and prays every Salatul Jum'ah. He fasts Ramadan. He's struggling, you know, and that's why I talked about the issue of not being about advising people or not being overly harsh, and being harsh with people and just telling them that they're going to hell. That's not going to help give someone therapy or soothe them through the challenge, because he wasn't comfortable with it. Like, that's why he came out and told me. He said he wasn't comfortable with it. So, you know, we have to help people, you know, in their problems as best that we can without enabling them. Allahu A'lam.
And by the way, there are the Fordson School, thank you very much. After the legalization, the so-called legalization, Board of Education opened up literally offices within the high schools, trying to advise our children, in addition to other children, that this is now legal and they can practice it. We have to understand, I took a class at Aleph School of Theology many years ago with a famous professor regarding theology and sexuality. The jury is out as exactly what happens. There are two schools of thoughts. There are those who say this is genetic, and there are those who say, no, this is a kind of preferred practice, nothing to do with gene. The verse that Brother Dawood recited regarding Surah Lut and so on, it's clear that Quran refers to or puts itself in the side of it's a preferred practice, nothing to do with gene. But there is another school. This is why we have to be mindful when somebody comes in. This confusion takes place for very many reasons. Again, as Brother Dawood said, it could be psychological. They are really confused. This is the age of puberty, going through adolescence. They have no direction in life. They don't know where is the attraction. And they see their peers having both attraction, so they follow suit. There is that possibility. There is a possibility that they may have something inside that we don't know until some experts come in and talk to them. But certainly, throwing hell into their face is not going to clarify their own position. We can have made our position vis-a-vis the value clear, but if they need help, وَإِنْ اسْتَجَارَكَ أَحَدٌ مِّنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ فَأَجِرْهُ. If even a mushrik comes to you, allow them to come in your midst so that they hear, and then they can even secure their return back to their home. This is the verse. So if these people come to us, the idea that shut the door is not going to work. If we really want our youth and children within our own society, the teenagers and so on, to have a clear understanding and direction in life, we have to open our hearts to them. At the same time, whether it's Muslim Family Services or anybody else that we have in the community, get into these experts and try to help them out.
Okay. Barakallahu fikum. Assalamu alaikum.